Okay, chapter 4 of The Ghost's Grave. Remember last time we met a new character? We met his Aunt Florence. Does anyone remember who Aunt Florence is? Yes, she's a peacock. Yeah, so now our colorful Aunt Ethel has another kind of strange thing. She has a peacock that she believes is her sister Florence come back to life. Um, we also found out that Aunt Ethel likes to eat spaghetti for breakfast and peas for breakfast, fresh ones. And then we also found out with Aunt Florence that when she was alive, when she went to the tree house, she stopped going because she felt it was haunted. Now, Aunt Ethel didn't think it was haunted, but Aunt Florence refused to go because she felt it was haunted. So let's see what happens in chapter 4. Okay. Which direction is the treehouse? I asked when I finished writing my second letter. Aunt Ethel pointed. There used to be a path, she said, but it's overgrown now. Wear long pants in the woods. The berry vines grab your legs. There's a compass hanging on the back porch. Take it along. It's easy to get turned around in the trees until you learn your way. I changed into jeans, then went out to the kitchen door. A small compass on a shoelace dangled from a nail. I put the looped shoelace over my head, wondering who had worn it last and how long ago. Mom had worried about me being in the woods alone this summer and had suggested buying me a cell phone. Stephen had said, it would be a waste of money. There's no cell service out there. At the time, I'd thought it was an excuse not to buy me a phone. But as I looked around at the unspoiled forest, I knew he was right. There was no point building a cellular tower in a place where hardly anyone lived. Add cellular phone service to the long list of things Carbon City doesn't have. I headed into the grove of trees behind Aunt Ethel's house. Stephen had told me Aunt Ethel owned about 50 acres, which sounded like a lot. Maybe I'd see deer or squirrels. I planned to search for the old treehouse. If I found it, I intended to carry some of my books out there. A treehouse would be the perfect place to read, far from Aunt Florence's screams. I glanced back at the house. It had seemed so gloomy last night, but now the sunshine gave it a cheerful look, despite its peeling paint. Bright yellow daisies bloomed along the foundation, and white petals drifted down from a large flowering tree near the back door. As the woods closed behind me, I noted I was headed east. No matter how peaceful the woods were, or how much wildlife I spotted, I wanted to be sure I could find my way out. I picked my way through the undergrowth, inhaling the smell of fir and cedar. I wished Aunt Ethel had a dog. This would be the perfect place for a dog to run, sniffing at the fallen trees, searching out rabbits or mice to chase. Charlie would have loved it here. In my imagination, I saw Charlie's short dashing legs scrambling through the bushes, his nose leading the way to adventure. You were a good dog, Charlie, I thought, the best dog ever. I miss you. Why did Charlie have to get mouth cancer when he was only 9 years old? Why did I snipped off the thought before it would grow. Mom said, remember the happy times with Charlie and forget the end of the story. The only way to survive the loss of someone you love is to remember the good times. With my thoughts on Charlie, I forgot to watch for deer. The sudden snap of a branch breaking startled me, and I glanced toward the sound. A beautiful doe stood about 10 yards away, watching me. We looked at each other for a few seconds. Then the deer bounded off, flashing her black tail. 10 minutes later, I spotted the treehouse. I had expected a rickety platform balanced in the branches of a large tree, but I found a sturdy wooden structure enclosed on all 4 sides with a sloping roof of corrugated tin. It wasn't literally a treehouse because it wasn't attached to a tree. It rested on 4 unpeeled logs, each about 8 inches in diameter, set in concrete. The building stood 10 feet off the ground, completely surrounded by huge fir trees. A wooden ladder leaned against the narrow platform outside the treehouse door. I stood on the bottom rung of the ladder, testing it. Then I climbed quickly to the platform and pushed open the door. The treehouse was 8 feet square with windows on 3 sides. Not glass windows, but rectangles cut from the walls, with shutters that closed to keep the rain out. I imagined a young Aunt Ethel and her sister silently gazing out the windows while they waited for the deer. Dry leaves crunched underfoot on the floor, and cobwebs crisscrossed the window openings. A small makeshift table, built of 4 pieces of log and a plank, squatted in one corner. I liked the treehouse. After I gave it a thorough sweeping and brought out a chair, it would be a perfect spot to read and listen to music. Maybe I would bring lunch here too, or at least a snack to eat while I watched for wildlife. I hurried back to the house for a broom and a damp rag to clean the table. Aunt Ethel, pleased I had found the treehouse, gave me an oversized pillow to take there for the summer. It's the same pillow Stephen used in the treehouse, she said. I swept and scrubbed, then went back for some cheese and crackers and my box of books. With all 3 windows open, their treehouse had plenty of light to read by. I sank onto the pillow and opened a book. I was deep into a mystery novel when a faint sound caught my attention. Another deer? I put down my book, moved quietly to the window, and peered out. I waited, listening, my eyes scanning the trees for movement. Meow. I looked toward the sound. A scrawny cat sat in the woods, its brown and tan striped fur blending into the background. Hello, kitty. The startled cat hurried away. I broke off a piece of cheese and dropped it out the window. I waited. Soon the cat returned, moving cautiously. He sniffed the cheese, then gulped it down. I tossed out another piece. The cat backed away from the treehouse, looking up at the window. When I remained still, the cat edged forward again and gobbled up the cheese. The poor thing is starving, I thought. I broke the rest of my cheese into pieces and dropped them to the ground. The cat ate it all, then looked up as if hoping for more, but he didn't meow again. I wondered why the cat had meowed in the first place. Had he smelled the cheese from so far away? Or had he smelled me and taken a chance that I would feed him? When the cheese was gone, the cat washed his whiskers, then turned and went into the woods. He walked slowly and looked back once before he vanished into the undergrowth. I put a bookmark in my book and laid the book on the floor beside the pillow. I closed the shutters on the windows, climbed down the ladder, and hurried home. The house smelled like chocolate. Aunt Ethel stood in the kitchen, frosting a layer cake. That smells wonderful, I said. It's your new welcome cake. Did you see any deer? Yes, and I saw a starving cat. Fleas and mosquitoes, not another stray. I fed him some of the cheese. Oh, don't do that again. Feed a stray and it'll hang forever. He was hungry. Plenty of mice in the woods. He acted scared, and he didn't have a collar on. Do you have anything I can feed him, like a can of tuna? No, and I don't cotton much to cats. Florence was the one with the soft heart for critters, always feeding some stray cat or taking in a lost dog. People dump animals out here, you know, put them right at the end of my driveway and hope they'll live in the woods. I wondered if someone had dumped a peacock. Would you drive me to Carbon City? I asked. The market might sell cat food. Aunt Ethel swirled her knife through the frosting, smoothing it across the cake's top. Feeding that cat is not a good idea. Mom says we should be kind to all creatures and help them when we can. It wouldn't be a kindness to make a cat dependent on you for its food. You'll leave at summer's end, and the cat will starve. By then, maybe I can find someone who wants to adopt him. I don't want a cat coming around bothering Florence. I realized Aunt Ethel didn't want to help the cat because she feared it would hurt the peacock. I could feed it out by the treehouse, I said. It would follow you home. I looked away, annoyed by her lack of caring. First, she killed an innocent bat, and now she refused to help a starving cat. The welcome cake looked delicious, but I couldn't enjoy cake when the cat needed food. There had to be some way to help. Is there a humane society or some other group that rescues strays? I asked. We tried to build an animal shelter once, Aunt Ethel said, so there'd be a good place to take the unwanted dogs and cats. Everyone got together, all the small towns around here, and we had a big auction. It was the most exciting event we have ever had in these parts, let me tell you. Businesses donated expensive items for the auction, trips and a new car, even 2 tickets to the World Series. Wow, I'd like to win that. Children held bake sales and car washes and put decorated collection cans in all the stores. Lots of folks contributed. Florence and I gave $500 in memory of our parents. Altogether, the community raised $130,000 for the shelter. It should have been built by now, but it isn't going to happen. Why not? Someone stole all the money. Stole it? How? The day of the auction, all the coins were put in one of those coin counting machines and then exchanged for large bills, which were taken to the auction. It was called Cash for Critters, and those who attended the auction were asked to pay in cash. It was a gimmick to see how high the pile of money would be, and it worked. One of the TV stations from Seattle even sent a reporter to film it. People got all fired up when they saw the heap of money grow bigger, and some even threw bills on the pile without bidding. After the auction, the county treasurer and the auction chairman counted the money. Then they put it in bags and took it to the bank's night deposit. Tears sprang to Aunt Ethel's eyes. Before the money could be deposited, an armed robber stole it all. No! How? What happened? As the two men walked from their car to the night deposit, a man wearing a ski mask and a dark clothing jumped around the corner of the bank with a gun pointed at them. He grabbed the bags of money and fled. His car was parked out of sight, and he was in it and gone before they could get a license plate number. He never got caught? Aunt Ethel shook her head no. Mr. Turlip, the bank manager, posted a reward for information leading to an arrest, but it didn't help. The money was never found. Doesn't the bank have insurance? Not for money that was never deposited. For a long time, we hoped the robber would be caught and the money would be recovered. When we realized it wasn't going to happen, there was talk of starting over and doing the auction again, but most folks had run out of steam by then. We'd given generously already, and it was hard to get excited about doing it over again, and many folks couldn't afford to give it twice. The story made me angry. Aunt Ethel would have to bake a lot of cakes to earn $500. She'd given a donation out of love as a way to honor her parents, and some scumbag had stolen it. So we never got our animal shelter, she said, and people still dump unwanted cats and dogs in the woods. Maybe if I feed the stray cat, I can tame it, and then we can find a home for it. There may not be a shelter to help all the animals, but we could help this one. No. Cats kill birds. The peacock, Florence, is way bigger than the cat. Florence, she paused, then smiled. I've been thinking, she said. Ever since you asked what I did as a child, my mind's brimmed with memories. Florence and I used to ride our bicycles down to Carbon City to buy penny candy. We had a big tire that we hung from the chestnut tree with a rope. It made a fine swing. We played marbles, too, and hopscotch, and in the evening, when our brothers finished dinner, we all played kick the can. She had a faraway look, as if she saw her sister and brother still hiding behind trees, waiting to dash out to kick the tin can. She'd forgotten all about the stolen money and the stray cat. I think that big tire is still in the barn, she said. Maybe you'd like to hang it in the tree this summer. I'll go look for it, I said, not because I cared about the swing, but because I was upset that Aunt Ethel wouldn't let me feed the cat. Right then, I wanted to get away from her. I felt sorry about the shelter money and sorry all her family had died, but I also felt sorry for the dead bat and the hungry stray cat. I walked across the yard to the barn, then lifted the wooden bar that held the door shut. The air inside smelled like stale bread. Dust motes drifted in the shaft of sunlight that followed me through the door. A small, unseen critter scuttled away. Old rakes, shovels, and other garden implements lined up beside the door. I'd seen similar tools in Vermont when Mom and I browsed in antique shops. I didn't see the tire, but I spotted 2 old bicycles, one blue and one red, leaning against the far wall. The blue bike had 2 flat tires. The red bike's tires still held air. I grabbed the handlebars and walked the red bike out of the barn. I mounted it and pushed off, pedaling across the grass. At home, I had a 10-speed bike with narrow tires and handbrakes. These tires were much wider, and I had to practice braking with my feet. After I had the hang of it, I went inside. I found a bike in the barn, I said. Is it okay if I go for a bike ride? I hoped she wouldn't ask where I planned to go. Watch for cars, Aunt Ethel said. I promised to be careful. Before I left, I went up to my room and took a $10 bill from the money Mom and Stephen had given me. You'll need spending money, Stephen had said, in case you go to town. If there's nothing else you want, you can always buy ice cream bars at the Carbon City Market. Or cat food, I thought, as I stuffed the money into my pocket. If Aunt Ethel used to ride a bike to Carbon City and back, I could do it too. Okay, that is the end of the chapter. Okay, so we have another character that he found. He found a stray cat, and Aunt Ethel does not care for the stray cat for a couple reasons, right? She's afraid that it will hurt Florence because cats do not like birds, even though Florence is bigger than this cat. Also, she's afraid that if he tames it, right, if Josh tames it and feeds it, then when he leaves in the summer, then she's stuck with this cat. And she doesn't like cats. So, of course, Josh is upset because he wants to feed the cat because he feels sorry for the cat. We also have learned that there was supposed to be a shelter built for cats, but there was a robbery. So make sure you keep that in mind because that will come back in the story. So, all right. Tune in tomorrow when we do the next chapter. Bye.